So it looks like the Senate might actually flip blue, believe it or not. There are some vulnerable seats in the Senate. We're going to go through the top 10 most vulnerable senators. This is a list that was put out by rollcall.com. They put together a great list, and we're going to talk about who is vulnerable and what would happen if the Senate were to flip blue, if the House were to also maintain the Democrat majority, and if Joe Biden were to take the White House. What could we see with a fully run Democrat government? We're going to talk about that. So let's talk about first the top 10 senators who are the most vulnerable right now, as we've just got less than a week to go. The most vulnerable senator is Alabama's Democrat Doug Jones, and I think we all kind of knew that this guy is not likely to hold his seat for any longer than he did. He was just there. It was kind of like an amazing sort of fluke that the guy got in, and people all knew that he probably wasn't going to last long. So Doug Jones is likely. It's going to be a Republican that replaces him. So he is a Democrat. So that seat is likely to flip to red, especially since the guy he's running against is former Auburn University football coach Tommy Tuberville. And we all know the South really, really loves their football, especially the SEC. They love their football. Republican senator that is at risk is Cory Gardner in Colorado. This one, he is, this is possible that this guy flips, and he was once considered kind of a rising star in the Republican Party. Now things have changed. That was well before Trump and the new Trump era and the kind of this new rise of populist Republicans. So it is possible that Cory Gardner is out in that race. Right now, it is tilting Democrat, according to roll call. So we could just count that as one going for the Dems. Now, right now, the Democrats have pretty much a 47 senator. They're holding about 47. Technically, they have 45. There are two senators that are technically independents, like Bernie Sanders, but they caucus with the Democrats. So they need 3 of the Republican seats to flip blue, and 4 if you count the fact that Doug Jones' seat is probably going to flip red. So they need 4 to flip blue. Plus, they would need to win the White House so that they have that vice president vote from Kamala Harris if they're going to have the Senate be a blue Senate, essentially. So they need 4 or 5 to flip. So Cory Gardner is one. That one right now is looking like it might actually flip to the Democrats. Martha McSally in Arizona is also another one that is looking like it might flip to the Democrats. So that's 2 right there. She is running against a former astronaut, Mark Kelly. It's a very close race, so it's possible Martha McSally is out, and you've got 2 Democrats in, so that means we need 3 more in order to ensure a blue Senate. Susan Collins of Maine is also on the hot seat, and that seat right there is leaning Democrat. That race is leaning Democrat, so it's looking like she's going to go. She's tried to play the middle as much as she possibly can. Maine is a very purple state, and it is going more Democrat than anything, and so Susan Collins is looking like she's probably going to be out of there. Tom Tillis, this is one of the guys that got coronavirus. He was one of the only ones actually wearing a mask at the Rose Garden ceremony, but he wasn't wearing a mask when he went inside to meet Amy Coney Barrett in the White House little reception that they had. So that's probably where he got the virus. But Tom Tillis, he is recovered from the virus, but he might not recover when it comes to his actual Senate race. It looks like it is going to the Democrats. And so that would be 4 right there. And Joni Ernst from Iowa, this would be the toss-up. So right there, if the Democrats get those 4 seats, but they lose Doug Jones, remember, so that puts them down to 46. If they get those 4, then that actually puts them to 50. Now, if Trump wins again, it doesn't help them because then Mike Pence would always vote red. He would caucus, obviously. He's a Republican, so he'd be with the Republicans. And if Joe Biden gets the win, then Kamala Harris is in there, and they do have a more Democrat Senate in that way. So that right there, it's looking like it's, those 4 seats are pretty important, and really it would come down to who wins the White House. Joni Ernst, however, this is a toss-up according to roll call. They're saying that, it's right now anyone's race. Joni Ernst is from Iowa. So we'll see how that one goes. It's one to watch. David Perdue in Georgia. This one is leaning Republican. Georgia, though, however, is kind of becoming more and more of a purple state. Georgia has got Atlanta, and Atlanta has been attracting a ton of people from Los Angeles because of the movie industry. Georgia implemented these new sort of tax rules where they are more relaxed with taxes when it comes to Hollywood. So a lot of people from Los Angeles, a lot of people in the movie industry are moving to Georgia. They've been moving to Georgia. I know a lot of my friends that were here in Los Angeles are often in Georgia. They spent a lot of time in Atlanta, or they spent a lot of time in Vancouver, Vancouver, Canada. But Atlanta has been attracting a lot of people with their changes of laws for taxation. And that has brought in a lot of Democrats. And so Georgia has been increasingly becoming a bit more purple. And as we saw with Stacey Abrams, she nearly won. And now you've got David Perdue, who's, his Senate race seat is, it's kind of up for grabs. And it's possible that this goes to Jon Ossoff. Or Ossoff, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his name, Jon Ossoff. He is running against him. He's a real young guy, 33. Had a really tense exchange with David Perdue during a debate. Really, really great. Maybe we can put that clip in here for you guys to watch. It was like check this out.
Well, perhaps Senator Perdue would have been able to respond properly to the COVID-19 pandemic if you hadn't been fending off multiple federal investigations for insider trading. It's not just that you're a crook, Senator. It's that you're attacking the health of the people that you represent. You did say COVID-19 was no deadlier than the flu. You did say there would be no significant uptick in cases. All the while, you were looking after your own assets and your own portfolio, and you did vote 4 times to end protections for pre-existing conditions. 4 times. And the legislation that you tout, the PROTECT Act, it includes loopholes that specifically allow insurance companies to deny policies to Georgians with pre-existing conditions. Can you look down the camera and tell the people of this state why you voted 4 times to allow insurance companies to deny us health coverage because we may suffer from diabetes or heart disease or asthma or have cancer in remission? Why, Senator?
Oh, that guy. So we'll see if that guy has any future, but it's pretty good. I mean, that's what debates should be like, right? Steve Daines, this guy's from Montana. He is a Republican. He is showing it's a toss-up there from Montana. Now, Montana does have a Democrat governor. So the people in Montana are pretty open-minded, and it is possible that this one goes to the Democrat running against him. It's a toss-up. Lindsey Graham. Now, this is kind of like we can hope, right? Because Lindsey Graham is very annoying. But it's looking like Lindsey Graham's probably going to he's probably going to hold his seat. But he is, in fact, he is on the list as one of the top 10 most vulnerable senators. I think people are pretty. I personally think that people are a little bit confused and maybe fed up by Lindsey Graham. If you remember when John McCain was alive, he was like John McCain's wingman. And he was very really hard on the president, really always going after him, criticizing him. And then suddenly when John McCain died, Lindsey Graham became Trump's right-wing man. He's just was like, okay, I'm here for you, President, Mr. President, I'm your boy. And before he was John McCain's. So it was just really, I think he's confused a lot of people. Gary Peters. So this guy is the 10th on the list from this roll call article showing the top 10 most vulnerable senators. Gary Peters is a Democrat, and this race is likely to go to him, but it is still one of those toss-ups. So looking at this and going through this, you can see that it is very possible that the Senate turns blue. There is a path for the Senate to turn blue. Now, the big question is, what does that mean? If the Senate turns blue and the House maintains the Democrat majority, and if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which I personally think at this point they will win, because I think there's a lot of hatred for Trump, and I think strong emotion is what wins, whoever has the strongest emotion. And I think right now the strongest emotion is hatred for Trump. And I think those people are coming out in droves to vote because of their hatred. They're fueled by that hatred. You have to fuel people somehow with some kind of emotion. Hatred is a strong emotion. That's why I think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will win. If they hold the House, they get the White House, and they get the Senate, what does this mean? Well, a lot of progressives are hoping this means there's going to be some real progressive change. You can just keep wishing, because that's not going to happen. Joe Biden is not a progressive. I know Obama keeps coming out and trying to say, oh, yeah, he's the most progressive president we've ever seen. I guess it depends on your definition of progressive. I think a lot of these establishment, corporatist, now elitist Democrats have co-opted the term progressive in trying to get the vote, and they're just gaslighting you. They are the party of elites now. They are the party of Wall Street. They are the party of Silicon Valley, of billionaires. They are the party of billionaires and elites. And Joe Biden, remember, Obama selected Joe Biden as vice president. Vice presidents are never the same as their, look at Mike Pence and Trump. I mean, they're completely different. They're exact opposites. The president, the person who's nominated for president, always selects a vice president nominee who counters who they are, counters them so they can get a wider tent vote. And Obama was seen as a very progressive senator. He was seen as somebody who was going to make a lot of change. And so Joe Biden was selected as his running mate in order to calm people's fears down a bit, to make them think, okay, maybe there's a bit more of a moderate viewpoint, at least next to him. Joe Biden was selected because he's the moderate, not because he was the progressive. So this idea that Joe Biden is going to get in there, and if the Democrats get the Senate and if the Democrats get the House, there's going to be some real radical change. No, guys, remember, Joe Biden has made it clear. Nothing will fundamentally change. He has said this over and over and over again. Not to mention, he is not going to be appointing some real progressive dream team to his cabinet. Bernie Sanders will likely not get a cabinet position. Neither will Elizabeth Warren. Neither will Andrew Yang. None of them will, guys. These positions are already slated to the elites and to the establishment. That is who's going to be getting these spots. And it's going to be, they're going to play the game and be like, oh, it might be this person, it might be that person. And at the end of the day, it won't be. And even if they did throw some token progressive in the cabinet, they're going to kneecap them. They're going to make it to where that person has really no power and can't make ultimately any change whatsoever. And so this whole idea that if Joe Biden wins and that the House becomes blue and the Senate becomes blue, that we're going to see some real radical fundamental change, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. I mean, hey, listen, if you're a real right-wing person and you really don't want these Democrats in office because you think they're going to come taking your guns, or you think that they're going to, turn you into a communist, not likely to happen. So you can rest easy. Nothing will fundamentally change. And for those of you who are super progressive and you're hoping that we're going to get Medicare for all, you're hoping that we're going to make some real fundamental changes, and we're going to get free college education, or we're going to get Green New Deals, or whatever you think you want. Tough luck, guys. Nothing will fundamentally change. That is what's going to happen with Joe Biden winning and Democrats taking. And quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you, I hope if Joe Biden wins, which I think he will, I hope Democrats do take the House, continue to hold the House, and I hope they do take the Senate, because then it will expose them for what they are. And then maybe you'll wake up and realize that they are not on your team, that they have been gaslighting you all these years into believing that they're progressives, into believing they're going to make change, and ultimately what they're going to do is to continue the path that we were on prior to Trump, which is a path that will lead to a much worse Trump. That is what's going to happen. People's lives will continue to be ruined because the offshoring of jobs, the quality of life going down, the banks running away with all the money, people going further and further into debt. Debt is the biggest thing the biggest issue our country faces. And I'm not talking national debt. I'm talking individual debt that people are forced into because the elites are able to suck us dry. And that is what we can expect under a Joe Biden and fully run Democrat government, is that nothing will fundamentally change. People will, the wealth disparity, the wealth gap will become larger and larger and larger. The chance that the American dream will dwindle for everybody, and you will end up with a much worse Trump. If you thought Trump was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. That guy just tweets. You just don't like his tweets, okay? And you were worried that he had his thumb on the nuke button. He had access and he was going to start wars. That never happened. The only war he started was on Twitter. So the next guy will be worse. And that is my biggest fear if the Democrats take everything. This is why I will not be voting for a single Democrat. This year I have not cast my ballot yet, but I can assure you at this point, I'm not voting for a single Democrat. I'm not doing it. I'm really, really, truly afraid of them. And I am afraid, I'm certainly not a Republican supporter either, but I do worry about nothing fundamentally changing and having a much worse demagogue type come in later. I think that's a real serious thing to consider and a real serious fear. So, time for third party. That is ultimately what we need. We need a third party. We need to come together for a third party. So, thank you guys so much for watching. And we will be watching these Senate races. We sure will, together.